welcome to my first narrated art video. I want to show all of my old drawings in this series, for one reason being that I want to have all of my art documented somewhere, and maybe it's interesting for other people to see my progress and where I'm at now and where I was back then. So this is my very first sketchbook. Now I've done drawings previously on loose pieces of paper, but this is my first bound sketchbook, and it's a pretty cheap one. And all of the drawings in here are black and white done with pencil. I'm not quite sure why I didn't like coloring back then, but yeah, I'd like shading more than coloring. Nowadays it's a lot different. I love coloring. It's one of my favorite parts about drawing. And as you might have already spotted, I used a lot of different styles. I didn't really have a style, so to speak. So here's some attempts at being more realistic with body parts. Then that's a lot more anime, manga style, that's more fantasy. And I kind of had these set styles and I was just switching between them. Here's some weird dragon creatures that look a lot like sheep. And a lot of the times I was imagining stories alongside with the drawings. Here's like a village based on pencil tips. And they didn't really make sense, but that was fine with me. Back then, things didn't really have to make sense, they were just fun to draw. I did this one digitally first, and I'm gonna do a video on my old digital art as well. But again, I didn't color it in either. That one also had a digital predecessor. Then that was one of my first attempts at portraits, and then the font and the background is just my imagination. That's supposed to be Johnny Depp. Demon skulls. Also, a lot of my themes were kind of morbid and dark. Some more attempts at shading. For this one, I merged different reference pictures together, so there was one with a girl jumping and one of background. And that's a good exercise, which I should do again. Some more shading exercise. These were like my original characters back then. This one as well, from a story that I was working on. And maybe I do want to finish that story one day. I'm not quite sure. I was also into fantasy scripts and symbols a lot. Again, a drawing that doesn't really make sense, but was more practice than anything else. And also a lot of times I designed covers for comics that didn't exist. So for example, this one was called Heart Life, and it was a magical girl one, so there's like her little companion. But again, there was nothing more to it, it was just a cover, and that's it. And some of the images were a bit distressing, I guess. That's a lot more anime-ish. This was from a tutorial from Sophie-chan. I'm not sure if she still has a channel on YouTube, but I was into watching a lot of drawing related videos and tutorials back then because I wanted to improve. And yeah, I was really into some typography as well. I never really studied that thoroughly though. And there was also some religious themes most of the time, well, almost all the time, about Christianity. Because those were topics that were interesting to me at the time. Also, weapons and girls. That's also a common theme back then, and this was from 2012. So if I did the math correctly, then I must have been 14. And I remember drawing this one in class. And this was about escaping reality because I just wasn't happy in school. More cover design with the Swedish flag. You can't see it because it's not colored in, but that's what it was supposed to be. Some cyber girls. More sci-fi stuff. That was from the story that I wanted to finish back then, and I wrote a lot about this, so if I do have the time I could collect it all and try to make it a script. So maybe I'll do that, and this was for a different story. Some fashion drawings, more fashion stuff, an attempt at backgrounds, and an action scene with a motorcycle. So there's like a guy being lifted in or out of a watchtower, and she's just posing there. Oops. Candyland, because why not? Some history. See, well, that's not real history, but inspired by historic events, I guess. And a villain and his creation. Some fairies, and this is like realistic style versus anime cartoon style. That's another cover of a fictional story, Sleepless Nights. More fantasy stuff. Kind of symbols and fashion. Anime faces and expressions. Some more religious symbology, I guess. More religious stuff. Pirate girl with a sword and a tent. I really love details, even though they didn't always make sense, but I still put a lot of details in all of my drawings. Just some, not really studies, but snippets of drawings. More religious stuff. Sci-fi scene that doesn't make sense with like a medical apparatus. More smaller drawings, some style experiments. That is, I think, a wrestler that I never finished. And that's a character that I called Feline, because I think feline means a type of animal that's either related to rats or mice, or is it in a language? I'm not quite sure. But I actually do want to redraw her design and draw it almost 10 years later again, which is why I marked it. Some mermaids, which are also a big theme. I later on used this symbol as my signature, the one that she has on the belt. But yeah, an ice queen or crystal queen or something. And that was it. Yeah. I have 24 more of these, plus a few art folders. So yeah, if you like this one, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming whenever I have the time to upload it. So yeah, thank you for watching.